charges. On the let's say he didn't because he wanted to say, what am I going to do? This happened. She was maybe he knows stuff. I'm sure he does that we don't. Maybe she was in a state of distress of some sort mentally and needed some help. And this is something they're going to say we're not going to choose to prosecute her for. You've got to answer for the dollar amount that we will eventually learn about how much this costs the taxpayer and the resources and the strain on the police. Then again, if you charge her with anything, be it obstruction, misuse of the 911 system, whatever you want to pursue, there will be people who say, cut her some slack. It's going to be very fascinating in the coming days to see how far they choose to go, because they can go very far with charging something like this if they choose to. It's just going to be the DA's prerogative.
The cut her some slack.
And I'm not suggesting that, nor am I suggesting charge her. I'm just analyzing.
Look, we do not, I want to repeat this, and I'm sorry for repeating myself. We do not know if there's a mental health component to this case.
Right.
And whether or not, or if there was another scenario at play that led her down this very calculated decision-making process to where she says that she saw a toddler, she called 911 to report the missing toddler, and then just poof, vanished out of thin air, only for the entire central Alabama community to look for her, and for her to just stroll down her street and reappear at her parents' house 49 hours later. Charges are more likely than not in this case.
I would sure think so. Again, though, it's ultimately up to the DA. We see these cases where the police have a say. We see cases here in Florida where the police say, we're not going to choose to we don't think anything unlawful happened. And then the state attorney could then come in, the state attorney in Florida, the equivalent of a DA in Birmingham, Alabama, or in the counties there. So I would struggle to see a way that she avoids some sort of criminal liability.
It's about, look, criminal charges can be, it's about accountability.
Right.
It's about responsibility for your actions.
Yes.
We are going to be focusing in on your comments, folks, and we'll see this one, or talk about this one here in the center of your screen from Dolce. So what happens if no charges are filed? Hashtag AJB. You can use either hashtag AJack or hashtag AJB. We're going to start to put your comments up here on screen, provided that they have one of those hashtags. But again, if no charges are filed, it is quite literally taking a can of worms and just opening it up, because you're... Think about all the other jurisdictions in the country that would be exposed and potentially vulnerable to somebody claiming that they have been abducted when in reality they weren't, spurring a massive search in their respective city or their respective county.
And remember, no criminal defense attorney would ever come out and issue an apology and basically an admission unless he saw no other way out. And what do criminal defense attorneys often, and I've seen Emory Anthony do it, they will try to reach an agreement with police in some way, or with the DA in some way. And again, very small town, comparable to most cities in this country, certainly to our area and many others. It's a small town in so many ways when you get into the nitty-gritty of this circle of people. Emory Anthony will at some point speak to Danny Carr about this, I'm sure, and they will discuss what is likely to come. But what I've seen in covering people who are represented by these types of criminal defense attorneys is there will be an agreement reached at some point that benefits both parties, where the DA can say, we've agreed to charge her with this, and the client is happy with that. It may be a monetary fine, but I'm sorry, there are quite a few things here that would be hard to overlook. I don't see her pleading to 2 misdemeanors. I mean, misuse of 911 is a big deal because of the resources it pulls away from anything, a burglary, anything going on, any emergency response, and then this weekend of searching and the expense of that. Not to mention, we're going to hear a dollar amount from officials. You can't really add up the gas people put in their car to go out there and volunteer to search, the time they spent, meals that they had to eat, all of these resources for this. And I'm most interested to learn a motive and to learn what possibly could have motivated someone to go to the extremes to do this, because it wasn't a one-off, it doesn't seem to me. This was very intricate. You heard Nick Durst say it. It was an all-hands-on-deck effort because of what they heard her say on that 911 call, what family was telling them. And he said, I forget his terminology, but he essentially said, this was kind of a doozy of cases, is what I heard him communicating. And this is a guy that I've known for quite a long time. I know this has to be frustrating for him and frustrating for them. And I admire his stature and the posture he's taken on this, because I'm sure they have officers who are unhappy. You know,
the Wednesday press conference, Jack, was so deliberate. And
Yes.
let me explain from a reporter's perspective for a second, folks. This past press conference, when we learned about the Google search history, when we learned about the 600 yards in the car, when we learned various details, that press conference, which we were live for, of course, police, they laid out all of the evidence. They have to get, they score marks here for transparency.
Yes.
They laid out all of the evidence, but never said, we believe she's making it up. We believe it's a hoax. We believe that we've been misled. They never said that. They just said, here's what we have on this investigation at this time. We hope to speak with Carlee to clarify her initial statement. And that's basically what they did. And that without providing my direct opinion, there is a lot that we benefit from by getting it in that format.
But it
not
shows
necessarily them coming forward and saying, you know, she did this.
Yes, and also we benefit from having reporters in the room who say, Chief, what does it mean to you that she traveled 600 yards?
Mm-hmm.
He was not going to come out and say, no baby would walk in a straight line down a busy interstate in the dark for 6 football fields. But when he was asked the question, what does that mean? He said, well, leads us to, and it shows the type of investigative work they're thinking about. Because I have to confess, when he said 600 yards, I thought, that's a long way. I hadn't thought yet of what baby, my soon-to-be stepson is 5. I can't get him to walk 6 football fields in a straight line for anything. I don't care how much candy's at the end of the line.
Yeah.
What baby it just made no sense, but no one wanted to admit that in those first few days. I had friends who were saying, this sounds like a human trafficking scheme. And then I had other friends going, no, that this doesn't sound feasible. And then to learn these details, as you noted, the methodical way police release them, the methodical way they're still handling it. And I should note, Hoover Police has come under fire in the past in other investigations, not at all related to this, for jumping to conclusions, not always releasing all the information they knew at the time. But this has been a very clean, clear, deliberate approach to revealing information to the public and moving forward in that way. I see this question on the screen.
Yeah, Canine Legend, has anyone heard from the family? Hashtags for us both. Again, we're going to cycle through as many of these comments and questions as possible. Your observations, you've seen them. We're cycling through them here from YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter, as well. Again, not Twitter. X?
X?
Are we going to call it X? Are we calling it X?
I guess. I mean, I don't know what to call it anymore.
That's going to take a long time to get out
And
of
what
my
is
brain.
a tweet now? An X? Did you X me?
I'm
not used to that yet.
I know. An X post?
Yeah.
Because then I think it's a former post.
But you don't want to say, like, the president X'd this statement, posted an X. It's going to be weird.
Twitter.
That's a whole other conversation.
And tweets just worked.
Yeah, I agree.
My dad taught me when I was a kid, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Amen.
So now we're all adjusting to X's and O's and X's and Y's and okay, look, has anyone heard from the family? The family has been silent since that press conference, which look, and they were, Carlee Russell's parents, the family they were very public when the search efforts were ongoing. They spoke with an NBC News correspondent.
But I can tell you,
Thompson.
there was frustration about that because so much local media in Birmingham turned out, showed up, covered this story relentlessly, and then there was frustration
that she was speaking to network. The
Yes.
family was speaking to network news and not the local media.
Yes, because the value of local journalism is that you have relationships with people in the community that you cover. You build so many of my friends in Birmingham had communicated and helped and shown up, and not that you do it for the payoff of having an interview. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying instead of when this ended and these local reporters said, let us tell our audiences who are desperately curious for information, they want to make sure she's okay, and they said, no, we're going to talk to the Today Show, which is their prerogative. There was a bit of disgruntlement about that, I think.
Yeah, and but that, we see it so often.
Yeah, I
Us,
know.
us local journalists are so often getting snubbed when the national media comes into town. It's par for the course as far as our industry. Um, let's see here. Let's just looking at a couple of things here. We're gonna continue to spotlight as many comments and questions on screen. I know that people are saying, stop. This is, look, folks. There are people who are saying in our comment section, we have seen the photos endlessly. I understand that, but this is how news live streaming works. And trust me, I don't think that we're approaching the end of the news cycle as far as the Carlee Russell story. But this should be, hopefully, again, we try to encourage people to share as much news of missing persons cases as possible. Find wherever you're watching from, find the missing person case in your town, in your city, and share that out. But we, with all of the people out here that are screaming in our comment section, at least if you believe the capital letters is screaming for accountability, screaming for responsibility, we're going to continue to show these images here on the center of your screen.
Before I have to run, JB,
Yep.
just to wrap up the charges conversation, to your point, and as I'm thinking about it more, yes, there's prosecutorial discretion, but I don't see a path where accountability can be avoided here. I don't see a way forward where there's not some accountability with some sort of charge for what has happened, what didn't happen, that everybody was led to believe did. If you called 911, I mean, people get in trouble for calling 911 for silly things we've talked about. Somebody calling, saying that their waffle was undercooked at Waffle House or something like that. When people call 911, there's a penalty associated with misusing that operator's time. This is what, times 100 in terms of the resources that came out to support what they believe. So it's going to be very fascinating. I will let you know if I hear anything from my friends in that market, in that region. But
did that happen? Did somebody call a Waffle House for an undercooked waffle?
Ironically, I found one on the Tampa Police Department Facebook or YouTube channel the other day. That exact 911 call, because they shared it like 12 years ago. I was looking for something else on there. So, yes, indeed, that's not a hypothetical. With that, I gotta run, but I wanted to say hi.
Jack Royer here, folks, popping in, and again, his expertise extremely valuable because Jack, of course, worked in the Birmingham market for a long time. Thank you, Jack, and we'll continue to have an interactive conversation here for another 20 minutes or so on WFLA Now. Still a lot of questions that we haven't gotten to in our comment section, so what we'll try to do is get to as many of those as possible, including from Michelle. I believe this one is on Facebook Live. Hashtag KJB, what if she has a mental illness? Can Carlee still be charged for this crime? First and foremost, you have to demonstrate that you are somebody who is suffering from a mental illness. Mental illness, and this is something that I think needs to be stated on this live stream. And it needs to be stated and reminded, and our audience needs this reminder. Mental illness cannot be used as a crutch, an excuse for committing a crime. I'm not saying that Carlee Russell does suffer from a mental illness. I'm not saying that she doesn't. We do not know what led this woman to make the decisions that she made that night and over the course of really that day. But mental illness has to be taken seriously, extremely seriously. And so if she says that that she suffered from a mental health episode, officers and investigators shouldn't just go, oh, okay, mental health, all right, on to the next case, she's good, and move on to the next investigation. You would have to demonstrate that you suffered a mental health episode, or that you have a history, a past with mental illness. Demonstrate exactly what your mental illness is, and provide context as to why that mental illness would lead you to make the decisions that you made. So I understand that people are saying, asking about mental illness in relation to charges, and I'm not discrediting anything in regards to Carlee Russell, her family, or mental health is an extremely personal and private ordeal that is usually only known to that individual, and then, if anything, just a few people in that person's inner circle. I'm not saying that a mental health episode didn't occur in this case. What I am saying is that if it did occur in this case, it needs to be proven. It needs to be made clear to police. Police have to investigate that, because a lot of goodwill, a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of time went into searching for Carlee. And here we are now finding out that it was just a mistake. Let's go to some of the other comments that we have here in our comment section. I want to bring up Lilac's comment. Hashtag AJB, how can Carlee ever face her community after this? Let me be clear. There's cyberbullying, and then there's real in-person bullying. And just because this young woman and this family have been through an ordeal that has reached people quite literally around the world, with people knowing Carlee Russell's name and knowing her face, that does not give anyone the free rein, the thumbs up to confront her in public and bully her in public. I think that there is going to be some tremendous challenges as far as how the family moves on from this. But let's please be mindful of the fact that these family members, if they had no idea that this was happening, that they are suffering consequences in relation to this story as well. So how can she ever face her community? Hopefully people will find out more about this story, and hopefully in time, if charges are filed, and if Carlee, whether it's a conviction or plea guilty or however the legal process plays out, you can only hope that people will in time learn to forgive. I think that there's a tremendous power in forgiveness. Clearly, we're just finding out this information now. I lived in Alabama for nearly 5 years. I can tell you there are some extremely incredible, just amazing people that live in the state of Alabama. People who are forgiving and will learn to forgive if she chooses to remain in Alabama. However, there's still a legal process that has to be played out, and as of today, I can assure you from reading these comments, people are frustrated, borderline angry, that this unfolded the way that it did, based on, again, somebody making these decisions for reasons that are still unclear to us at this time. Dauber, this question was asked during the press conference about any accountability for the parents. We have no idea if the parents, and it sounds as if at this particular time, the parents aren't being under a direct investigation. The harsh sort of police spotlight isn't on the parents here. The parents, by all accounts, at this stage in the story, they were just trying to do the right thing and helping find their daughter. So people who are bringing up the parents in our comment section, it is very likely, we can't say with certainty until we know more about the story, but there is a very likely chance that they are victims in their own way in relation to this story, because if this is something that caught them completely off guard and they were just trying to act as any mom or dad would and trying to find their daughter, then they are now dealing with their own ramifications of what has transpired at no fault of their own. You could argue, depending on, again, the intricacies of the family, how and what happened to Carlee in days and years past. There's just so much we don't know about the family dynamic. So people who are pointing fingers at the parents in our comment section, I ask you to reserve judgment until we find out more about the story. They might have been completely blindsided by this, doing everything they could to give Carlee a good life, and being completely blindsided about this. That is a very plausible scenario here. We just don't know, and it sounds as if police, the focal point of their investigation is Carlee herself, especially after the statement that she released today saying that she acted on her own. Again, acted on her own. But then again, that brings up the comment as well that we had earlier. Could she have really been alone for 49 hours? Where was Carlee Russell for 49 hours? How do you just pull off that magic act? How do you vanish for 49 hours with the entire community looking for you? Flyers being passed out, endless media attention, groups combing through the woods, knocking on doors, doing everything they can to spread the word. How do you just avoid all of that attention? Where did you go? I'm asking fundamentally just as a curious human being, not even as a reporter, I'm just asking, how do you vanish out of thin air? It was dark that night. We've seen it in the video endlessly. It was very dark. Not a lot of lights out there. So if you disappeared into the woods, you get a pretty good head start. You could find a way to reemerge on the other side of the woods and then go somewhere. But where are you going to go? What spot did you find? And were you in one spot for 49 hours? Were you watching news coverage somewhere? This all unfolding? When she didn't have her phone. We know that she didn't have her phone. But were you aware that the entire world was, in essence, talking about you and people wanting to know where you were and wanting to know if you were safe? Wanting to believe your story? Were you aware that the world in Alabama and beyond stopped for your well-being? Major questions that remain. DJ Jackson, do you think Carlee Russell will be jailed or charged? Look, she has admitted to doing something that qualifies as breaking the law, no doubt. So this isn't, I'm providing context here, not an opinion, I'm just providing context based on just the basics here, the fundamentals of the case. It is more likely than not that Carlee Russell is going to face the music, so to speak. She's going to have to face some sort of charges, some responsibility for her actions. Will she be jailed is a completely other question that is way too early as far as where we are in the story. It's just way too early for us to answer that question. People were commenting earlier, and I saw your comments scrolling in about what a potential punishment could look like, what a sentence could look like. We're just way too early for that. I know that people were commenting about a fine and community service versus being jailed. We don't know. It's way too early. It would be highly improper and inappropriate of us to look into, what the legal process has to play out. She hasn't even been charged yet, so we don't want to be irresponsible here. Alyssa, #KJB, what are the chances she had a burner phone? I think police would have found out that by now, but you can get a burner phone relatively easily. Yeah. And we've seen burner phones in other cases that we've covered here on WFLA Now. So is there a chance that, the burner phone wasn't purchased when she stopped at the Target. We know that there were the Cheez-Its, right, and the granola bars, I believe. Those snacks that weren't in the vehicle. But if a burner phone had been purchased at the Target, or if there was a credit card transaction of any kind, any record of any kind of somebody buying what is called a burner phone, which is a phone that you do not intend to keep for a long period of time, it's one that you intend to discard. I think by now police probably would have found out about that. That would have been a very telling piece of information, but can't say for sure. Sarah. Oh, that's not the comment. I don't know. Oh, I know what you're saying here, Sarah. An empty property. I can't speculate. I clicked on the wrong comment here. They're scrolling in very, very fast. Beedaboo. Hashtag AJB, what type of precedent does this make if she is not charged? I'll let you kind of fill in the blank. Choose your adjective of choice as far as what kind of precedent this would set if somebody could do this deliberately, consciously make these decisions, and then not face any charges. What word would you pick? Blank precedent. We'll let our comment section speak for itself. I'll let you guys comment and fill in the blank here yourselves, because I think it's very clear what kind of precedent it sets for somebody to break the law and then not face any accountability or not face any charges from law enforcement. But I'll let you guys go in and I'll read some of those comments coming in as far as the type of precedent that it would set. Wade says bad precedent. Not seeing too many other adjectives. Just seeing comments continuously scroll in. Didn't go out as I thought it would. Not seeing too many people fill in the blank. But oh my goodness, Phil, that comment, no. People asking in our comment section about that is absolutely crazy and outlandish, but speaks to again the social media reaction to the story. That is absolutely. That scenario given when this comes back. No way. Zero chance. I can definitively tell you 0 chance. Karen says, I hope Uber understands the message they are sending whatever they decide to do with Carlee Russell. You know that law enforcement agencies across the country are going to be watching this because, again, we don't want copycat behavior. If Carlee Russell does not face charges, you open the door for copycat behavior. And I can tell you, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other law enforcement agencies across the country that do not want a copycat of this situation. No way, no how. They don't want it. Ice Queen 007, where's the donor's money going? Yeah, the Crime Stopper money. I have not seen any updates as to where that $60,000, or I think it was $63,000, somewhere $60,000 plus, where that money is going. We have not received an update. They're still determining how to best respond given the surprising, if you will, turn of this story. We have another about 5 to 6 minutes here on the screen, folks. We're going to the top of the hour. Sharon's asking the same question. Hey, anybody in our comment section make a donation, trying to do the right thing, and feel like I want my money back? Don't blame me. Don't blame you at all. We didn't run a poll on our previous live stream, and some people were suggesting, hey, just take that $60,000 and put it towards another missing person's case. Most people said the right thing to do, and according to our unscientific social media poll, the right thing to do is to just refund the money. Send it back. Well, they made those contributions. Cindy, opinion from our commenter wondering if there's going to be charges from taking from her employer. again from the spa, taking the robe and what was the other item that she took? Again, well, excuse me, accused of taking, according to police, accused of taking the robe and the toilet paper, the roll of toilet paper. That again, according to police from the previous press conference. Will, considering that there's an employer relationship there, and given the seriousness of the potential other charges that would be filed, is that a tack-on charge? Is that something I don't know? But I think that brings up a good point here to not forget about that as well. Why is nobody, Chantel, why is nobody mentioning Sherry Papini? Yeah, look, Google it, folks. I don't think we have enough time on this live stream to go over that. If you want to go down a rabbit hole on another case that has parallels to this one, Google Sherry Papini at some point in time. Do it now. You might learn something. Yeah, mom. It could be my mom. Just mom on YouTube Live.